The quick and easy answer is I was 18 years old. I was in college. I was doing a lot of things that I enjoyed doing, but I was completely miserable. And I considered myself a Christian because that was the home I was raised in, but I was just miserable. I was the most scared, frightened kid you could ever meet. I was kind of directionless and had a lot of anxiety. I had a lot of anger issues. And, one day my dad said, well, you say you believe in God. Have you ever really given that much thought? And maybe it's time to go find him. And I said, well, maybe you're right because things aren't getting any better. And so I started to look into this whole, what do I really believe? I mean, I say I'm a Christian, but what does that actually mean? And what I found was as I started to practice what Jesus taught, my life just in a matter of just a few weeks completely changed. It was kind of like like a red pill moment. Like you wake up from the Matrix and you realize, oh my God, like what this, how was I so asleep that I couldn't see these things? Like, how is it that I lived my life this way? It was just completely miserable. And I had to wrestle with the fact that I was an angry individual. And I didn't think I was angry because I wasn't a yeller. I wasn't a screamer. So I had this notion that, well, if I don't yell and scream, I must be a patient person. Well, you find out that a lot of people have these imaginary conversations in their head where, if my boss says that to me, I'm going to tell them off. And you have these mental monologues in your head where you're arguing with people and you're just seething with resentment. And, these imaginary conversations, and I realized, I have these conversations in my head where I'm cursing people and all this. And I'm like, if I'm really a patient person, why do I have these thoughts? So I started to look inward and see that, oh man, my thoughts are just garbage. And I started to practice what Jesus taught, which is like forgiveness and patience and kindness. And as I did that, it was almost like all my bad habits started to give me up in a sense. And I started to devote more time into, okay, well then what does the Bible say about this and that? And then suddenly I realized that the Bible, not only in spiritual terms, but also in practical terms, gave me a lot of wisdom in how to live life, how to live a prosperous, productive life, and a life that has a lot of fruit. And so then I started to, especially when I was in college, apply that to other different worldviews. And I said, well, this worldview says this worldview says that. And to me, a lot of these other worldviews just did not make sense to me when I compared it to what the Bible was saying, to what God was telling me in my heart. And I would always try to ask whenever I'd hear anything about a worldview or perspective is that really true? Is what this person is saying, is that really true? Is this book really true? And then I would look into it, question it, cross-examine it. And then at the end of the day, I was like, it just doesn't, what God is saying is making more sense to me than all these other perspectives out there. And as I started to study things like history and then science and then philosophy and politics and all these different realms, I realized that it just couldn't, there was something lacking in that I saw people subscribing to all these different things, but I didn't see a lot of fruit in their life. And it seems like the people that were able to help me the most in my life were other Christians. And so it was very hard to me to kind of dismiss the Bible and dismiss God when in my own life I've seen it change so much by following what the tenets of it were.
So look, from I want to get Julio's perspective on that too. So like you started like when you were 18, right? That kind of, and then as time went on, you got much better. You started learning more, and you saw the impact.
Sure.
You became what you perceive like a better person. Would that be it?
Yes.
Okay. So here's my thing. Here's my question. So you look at different perspectives. You look at philosophy, you look at science, and you look at other other subjects. When it comes to religion, or when it comes to what you believe in, what I would want to know is, for example, if you were telling a little kid, or if you were trying to prove your point, how would you convince someone that Jesus or God exists? Like if in a way that it's, I don't want to say facts or provable. Like, what information would you bring in?
Well, I think for the Christian faith, the most important thing is a lot of times just one's own personal testimony. To give an analogy, I'm sure you guys have seen the P90X commercials, right?
Yes.
Why do you think they're effective? Is it the before and after photos?
To a certain extent.
Yeah. So for a lot of people, all you know is, here's someone just saying this faith, this religion is the way to go, right? Okay, well, how do you prove it? How do you show it? Well, and in the same way, when someone says, hey, here's who I was before, look at me now, see the transformation, that's a powerful testimony. And you even look at, Madison Avenue and the advertising, they know the best way to sell something. And this is coming off of the people who, the hosts of Shark Tank. They say testimonies are the most powerful selling tool. Why? Because it's proof that it works. And so you talk to people, and as I went to church, visited different churches, different Christian groups, I would continuously find people who were the most hardened criminals, complete drug addicts, depressed, just completely broken people. And you talk to them, you go, wait, you were this hardened criminal? Like, you're the nicest guy I've ever met. I've seen Christian conferences where rival gang members, one of which was convicted of murder and he had served his time, now he's out. Rival gang members hug each other on stage and apologize to each other. Like, they went from being the type that were trying to seriously kill each other, now they're hugging. And they're like brothers. And to say, well, what is it about this Christian faith that changed? So to me, the most powerful thing is, okay, well, our lives being transformed by it. And I think that's my short answer is look at the testimonies is the most powerful, I think, evidence of it.